Hey guys, John here. I hope you're all doing well. In today's video, we're checking out this really cool, unique, and awesome tube amplifier, the Zuta GBG120. And as you can see, this is a rack mount amplifier, and it is compact, sure, but this is a proper 120 watt tube amplifier head. And this amp is packed with amazing tones and a bunch of really cool and unique features. So strap in guys, this is gonna be a really fun video. Let's dive in right away with a heavy demo song. Check it out. All right, that sounded really good. I hope you enjoyed that. So that was my ESP EII Eclipse full thickness with the EMG 57TW in the bridge, a really good guitar. And then on the amplifier for the rhythm tones, I used channel 4 with the noise gate on, the AB power mode, and the GBG switch on as well. And if you don't know what all of that means, no worries, I'm going to explain everything. Now for a certain section of the song, I also turned on the Zuta phaser pedal. More about the pedals in a second as well. And then for the solo tones, I chose channel 3 because it has a different character. The gain boost was on as well as the bright switch. And again, I was in the AB power mode with the GBG switch on. Now for all the full demo songs in this video, the amp will be fed through my RedSeven Amplification Amp Central reactive load and ML SoundLab impulse responses. But later in the video, I'm also going to do a raw playthrough and dialing in of the amplifier with the amp through my ENGL 4x12 cabinet with V30s mic'd up with a single SM57. So, the brand Zuta, what a cool and interesting brand this is. I think I saw a video from NAMM from a couple of years ago, and when I saw this thing, I was like, what is that? That thing looks very unique for sure. And I know that everybody who's watching now will probably think like, whoa, that's a weird or that's a cool looking amplifier. It looks like a retro spaceship or something, or like a pro audio device from a studio or something. Anyway, I was definitely intrigued, and a while ago, I got in touch with Zuta and we agreed that I was going to make some videos. And then at Guitar Summit, I met Baskim from Zuta. He's like a really cool guy. He's the guy behind the brand, and he's such a funny guy, so smart, and he designs some amazing stuff. He's so passionate about all this stuff. So it was great meeting him and talking to him afterwards as well. And then he sent me a bunch of stuff, including this behemoth of an amplifier, the GBG120. And honestly, this is one of the coolest amps I've ever tried. I'm not kidding. Of course, it does all the things high gain that you can dream of, but it does so much more as well, from clean to extreme and everything in between. And yeah, this thing is packed with features for sure. I mean, it's a 4-channel amplifier with switches for all the channels, built-in gate and all that stuff. But all the features are actually useful and musical sounding, so there's no fluff. And everything is really well thought out, if you know what I mean. It's just really functional and easy to use because of this unique interface. He didn't want to set out and make something like this just for the hell of it. No, he wanted to make something that was just really tactile and useful to get great results fast. And I think they did a really good job with that. And all the controls that you need to access are up front as well. So there's nothing on the back, which is especially handy for a rack mount amplifier. I think part of the idea behind doing it in rack mount form is because Zuta, they just love rack mount gear. You know, they also love the 80s and all that stuff. But, you know, rack mount stuff is actually quite handy because you can store way more rack mount amplifiers in a rack, for example, than you can of the big heads. And trust me, I know. If every amp that I owned was rack mountable, I could store way more. And this is also just kind of more appealing, I guess, to people who are used to something like an XFX, which of course is also rack mountable. So that's, I guess, the approach here. Anyway, huge shout out to Zuta for sending all this stuff over to me. I really appreciate it. Now, a quick note, this amp currently isn't MIDI compatible. However, they are going to release a device soon that you can plug into the unit and that will enable you to control this amp via MIDI. So that is awesome. So I guess keep your eyes on the Zuta socials for updates on that device. And as you saw in the intro track, I am using some pedals here and there because they did send over all their pedals. And yeah, those pedals are a lot of fun. So I wanted to be extra creative for this video and use them in the demo songs. And the cool thing about most of their pedals is that you can slide them into this, the holy real sort of pedal board rack thingy. So you slide them in, you lock them into place, and then you can have all your pedals in this rack. So it's like compact and it's just stored safely and it's rugged. And they also make the special power supplies, which I'm using here as well. I've got another board here with some other pedals like modulation pedals and a compressor. So yeah, it's really neat. This stuff is really cool and they sound really good. All the pedals are high headroom and high voltage. Everything sounds really pristine and high quality. You basically just lock all the pedals into place, and then even behind this lock, you can put the power cable so that nobody trips over your power cable and the cable comes out. So that's really convenient. And these patch cables on the back are EBS cables. Thanks a bunch to EBS for providing the cables for these videos. Really appreciate it. Anyway, so these are some of the pedals that I will be using throughout this video, but I'm also going to make a dedicated video on these pedals on the channel soon. So stay tuned for that if you're interested. Anyway, let's carry on because we have a lot of things to go through in this video. So let's go over the features of this amplifier as quick as we can. So it's a 120 watt amplifier. This one has 4 power tubes, 2 6L6s and 2 EL34s. And one of the cool things about this amp is that you can switch between either both, so 6L6s and EL34s, or you can go to the A power mode, which is just the 6L6s, so I guess that's like 60 watts, or to B, which is just the EL34s. So that's really awesome. You'll get to hear all of that stuff later in the video. I don't know a lot of other amps that can do that, so that's really a lot of fun. The amp also has a really good noise gate, and the threshold control is over here, but for each channel you can enable or disable the noise gate if you want. And one of the nice touches is that when the noise gate is active, the light turns red. And when the gate is open, the light is green. So that's also very useful. Visual feedback, basically. Over here we have the input, and you can also switch this to line for line level devices. But there's also an input on the back, and the line switch only works for the rear input. And then on the back, we also have a buffered direct out for sending your guitar signal into your interface for reamping, for example, or to another amplifier so that you can use 2 amplifiers at the same time without having to use a separate splitter pedal or something like that. So that's great. In the power section over here, we have a presence control, and beneath that, there's also a presence voicing shift, or like a presence shift that changes the character of the presence. And below that, we have a depth control, which is global as well, just for dialing in the right amount of low end thump. And this amplifier has a lot of low end on tap, plenty of low end. This amp also has a special solo function for leads. And when you enable that function, you basically get a separate level control over here. You can dial that in, to your liking for solos. It's not like super drastic, so not like 10 or 20 decibels or so. So it's actually very usable. And of course, this amp has an effects loop, which you can set to series or parallel. And the solo section has a separate effects loop. So when you want to kick in the solo function for a solo, for example, you can enable the effects loop dedicated to that as well, say for a delay or something like that. And then when you switch back to the rhythm, that effect goes off automatically. So that's really useful as well. And then for channels 2, 3, and 4, there's also the GBG switch over here. It's kind of a little switch, but it's a very special switch. It enables a sort of diode clipping, and it makes the sound a bit more smooth and a bit more compressed, which makes it more fun to play. It sounds, in the words of Busscheme, it just sounds kind of more mastered, and it sounds more as if the amp is cranked up higher than it actually is. So it's very suitable for lower levels and stuff, but it makes the amp a little bit more fun to play, if you know what I mean. It also sounds great without it. It sounds more dynamic and sort of pokey without it, but with the GBG switch on, it sounds extra juicy. So I'm using that a lot in this video as well. Okay, now let's go over all the channels and the controls that they have to offer. And don't worry, it's not as complicated as you might think. So we have channel 1, which is basically your clean channel. You can do high headroom cleans, but also broken up cleans. Think of kind of like a high headroom Fender combo tone. But you can shape the tone to your liking because it has some voicing switches. There's a bass cut or bass roll off switch, which you can use if the sound is too bassy for you. There's also a gain switch, which is the orange switch, and you can use that to add a little bit more gain or grit to the clean channel, which is great. And then of course, the third switch is the gate on or off switch, as you can see in red. And then we also have a bright switch. Channel 2 is a kind of a more classic channel, so great for classic rock and crunch tones, but it can also do high gain, which is cool. I love it when crunch channels also offer you a little bit more for extra versatility. Now this channel has a vintage mode, which you can enable to get a little bit less gain and, to make the channel sound more vintage. Then this channel also has a gain switch for adding more gain, again the gate switch, and of course also the bright switch. I love bright switches, and as you'll see throughout the video, I have them turned on basically all of the time. Channel 3 is your hot rodded high gain channel with plenty of mids, nice and crunchy. This channel has the same features as the crunch channel, so a vintage switch, a gain switch, the gate, and a bright switch. Channel 4 is your modern, super saturated high gain channel, great for metal, great for aggressive music, and this one has some other switches going on. This one has a bass boost feature, which you can use to fatten up your tone a little bit. It's not so much of an EQ thing. Post distortion, it's more of a shaping thing, to shape the character of your distortion. It works well if you want to use some really extreme boost pedals and stuff like that. Then we have the mod switch, which makes this channel sound more tight and ferocious. So cool how they built all of that in this amplifier. Then of course the gate as well, and a mid boost feature, which you can use, for leads and stuff like that, which is quite a drastic effect. On the back of the amplifier, there's not a whole lot, just the speaker outs, the loops, and the rear input and the output, the buffered out, as I mentioned. Of course, I should also mention that if you buy this amplifier, you get this foot switch. You can use this to switch between the channels, turn the solo function on or off, as well as the effects loop. Or what you could also do is opt for the version that you can put into the Holy Reel, which is this guy over here. I don't know if you can see it, but that's a pretty cool system if you want to get into the whole pedal board thing. So yeah, you can put this into your rack. In terms of the weight, this thing is not light. It's quite heavy and quite chunky, so it has all the heavy components that you need for a super solid and chunky tone. And this also has a fan to keep it cool on the inside. It's not super loud, especially if you have it in your rack. If you don't have any noise going on in your room, you are going to hear it a little bit, but it's definitely not irritating at all, in my opinion. It's something to note, but it's also good to know that this amp will stay cool. Okay, I've been talking for way too long. Let's explore some more tones. And we're going to start with some really wonderful clean tones using my ESP LTD Bill Kelleher BK-600. And I'm going to explore the clean tones with 3 pickup settings. So starting with the neck pickup, then the bridge pickup, and then both pickups combined. This guitar is equipped with Mojo Tone Hellbender pickups, by the way. Let's take a listen. Check it out. All right, that sounded really nice. So that guitar sounded nice, but it worked really well with the amplifier as well. Really warm and organic sounding. Now I put my Fractal Audio VP4 in the effects loop for some reverb. That's just a great effects processor, and it works really well together with this amplifier in the loop. Thanks to Fractal Audio for providing that pedal recently, by the way. And of course, we are on channel 1, and I am using the bright switch for this section. And I'm using the B power mode, which is just the EL34s. And then in the middle section of the song, I also turned on the Zuta phaser pedal, which might be my favorite pedal so far. It sounds really good. And then in the final section of the song, where I switched to the middle position with both pickups, I turned on the Expressor compression pedal, which smoothed out the tone really well. And then for the lead section, I turned on the Fred filter pedal. It's a really unique and interesting sort of auto wah effect. Not exactly, but it does a cool sort of envelope-y thing. That one does not have the compressor on, just that Fred filter pedal. Now let's check out some crunchy, sort of more classic rock tones, some more mid-gain rock tones on channel 2. And for these tones, I'm going to use my ET Eclipse full thickness in vintage Honeyburst with the Seymour Duncan pickups in it on the bridge pickup, and that's the JB pickup. Let's take a listen. Check it out. All right, that sounded really good. So I was using channel 2 with the bass lowered a little bit because this channel has a lot of bass on tap. And I had all the switches on. So I had the vintage mode on. I did have the gain mode on as well. The noise gate, of course, and the bright switch. Now what's so cool about the EQ on all these channels is that they sound very musical. So you can get away with lowering the bass quite a bit and it will still sound good. So there's a lot of room for shaping the tone, if you know what I mean. Again, I used the B power mode, so just the EL34s. I thought that that was fitting for a sort of more classic rock tone. And then for the solo section, I punched in the Triax boost pedal, which is a really good boost pedal. It also has a built-in gate. Think of it kind of like a tube screamer. And then I also turned on the Fractal Audio VP4 again in the effects loop for some delay. Great. Now I want to get a little bit heavier with channel 3. And we're going to use my ESP LTD Phoenix 1001, which recently came out. It's a really killer guitar. It has the Seymour Duncan Custom 14 pickup in it, which was designed especially for ESP. And yeah, let's go ahead and check it out. Awesome, that sounded really good. So for the rhythm tones, again, channel 3 with the bright switch and the noise gate turned on. This time I'm using the AB power mode, so that's with the 6L6 and EL34 power tubes, and I also used the GBG mode, just for extra smoothness and extra compression on that tone. And then for a rhythm section near the end, before the solo, I turned on the Bandit filter pedal, which is also a unique pedal. It's kind of like a wah-wah in a fixed position, and it gave that section a really cool character. I also used that for a quick lead guitar in the middle. And then for the solo section, I turned the gain switch on. And again, in the effects loop, I used the Fractal Audio VP4 for the delay effect. All right, very cool. Now I want to get heavier. I want to use a passive pickup guitar for some drop C metal. I'm going to use my Schecter E1 Apocalypse Red Rain with the USA Apocalypse pickups in it on the bridge pickup. Let's take a listen. All right, that sounded so good. So for that, I used channel 4 with the mod switch on for a bit more tightness and a bit more of a crunchy tone, as well as the noise gate, of course. And this time I used the A power mode, so that's with the 6L6 tubes only. And I did use the GBG mode again because it's just so addicting. And then for the solo section, I turned the mod off for a bit more of a fatter tone. And again, I used the Fractal Audio VP4 in the loop for delay. All right, that sounded so good. Now I want to get heavier with the 7-string baritone guitar, my ESP LTD SCT-607B Stephen Carpenter in drop A flat with the Fishman Fluence Steph pickups in it. Let's go ahead and take a listen. right, that sounded great. So again, that was channel 4 with the mod switch on, which is what I prefer most of the time for this channel. Of course, the gate was on as well, and for the power section, I used the A, B mode, so with the 6L6s and the EL34s combined once again. Okay, now let's get even heavier in true Swedish fashion with my Ibanez M8M custom shop Meshuggah 8-string guitar with the Lundgren M8 pickup in it. Let's see how well this amplifier can do that Meshuggah thing. Take a listen. That sounded ridiculous. Really cool, but it still had its own character going on, which is really nice. So again, channel 4 with the noise gate on and the mod switch on as well. And I also put the Triax boost pedal up front for a little bit more aggression and tightness, which is something that you want to do, you know, with a guitar like that. All right, what I'd like to do now is grab my Schecter Solo 2 Custom and just jam through the amplifier through my real Angle 4x12 XXL cabinet mic'd up with an SM57, of course loaded with V30s, and we're gonna just jam, play some very simple chords and riffs so you can really hear the textures of the amplifier, and then dial in all the controls so you can hear what they do and how they affect the tone. Check it out. right, that was impressive. So yeah, this amplifier sounds so good, not to mention all the pedals. Wow. I'm so impressed, and I had so much fun with the GBG120 by Zuta. I mean, this thing is crazy. It looks so cool. It has so many features. And again, all of the features are useful and musical. None of the features are fluff, in my opinion. I'm sure that all of you would be able to find use in most of the features for sure. I like the GBG switch a lot, and I also love the fact that you can switch between different power tube types. That's really awesome. And by the way, you can equip this amplifier with a bunch of other tubes as well, so you're not limited to just 6L6s and EL34s, so that's awesome. So yeah, it's versatile, it sounds awesome, it looks unique, it's rack mountable. If that's your thing, wonderful. If not, and you want to get this amplifier, you can always put a custom head shell around it, of course. It's not an affordable amplifier. The quality is super high, and it's made out of the best components. It's just top Swedish engineering, if you know what I mean. But in my opinion, when you buy one of these, it's worth every single penny. So definitely check out the Zuta website for more information on the GBG120. And thanks so much to Zuta for making this happen on the channel. I really appreciate it. Keep doing the amazing work that you've been doing. And you guys stay tuned for more Zuta videos in the future, because I also got another amplifier, the LA25 Mark II, which is also great. And of course the pedals, which I will be featuring in other videos in the future as well. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe buttons down below, as that really helps the channel out. And also let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on this amplifier. I'd love to know. If you want to support this channel in another way, you can buy something at my affiliate links for Tolman and Sweetwater, and then you get to support the channel at no additional cost. And of course, you can also follow Sonic Drive Studio on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Cheers!